What's going on, everyone, and welcome. Today is kind of the second part of our examination of the big balance beta going on in Vermintide 2. So in last video I looked at all the new talents that are coming, and today I'm going to look at all the changes for every single weapon that they're messing with. That includes range and melee weapons. The first one up is the one-handed sword for both Kubarz and Sienna. And the only change they made on this one is they increased the headshot and critical hit multipliers up to about 2. It used to be 1.4 for light attacks and 1.5 for heavy attacks. So when you attack now, go something like that for light attacks, something like that for heavy attacks, and you push it, looks like that. The next change comes to both the one-handed mace here for Kubarz and the one-handed hammer for Bardin. The first light attack, the second light attack, and the push hit, so that one, and that one, all get a tank multiplier, which just means that those attacks all have more cleave now, so you'll be able to deal with hordes better. The third and fourth light attack keep the same single target damage, but the third light attack, which is that weird kind of uppercut motion right there, gets a bonus. It now has 20% crit chance, up from 10%, to compensate for that kind of strange motion. So there you go. The next change comes for the two-handed hammer, again for both Kubarz and Bardin. All they did here was change the push attack to do the same kind of damage and motion as a heavy attack would. So a heavy attack does that much damage to a headshot, cleaves through a bunch of people, staggers a bunch of enemies rather. And the push hit, same damage, same kind of effect basically. And then they fixed a bug where heavy attacks wouldn't stagger enemies properly. That should be fixed now. Next we have changes to the great swords for both Kubarz and Saltspire. Your movement speed has been increased from 20% to now 60% while you are charging a heavy attack. So as you can see, you can move a little bit faster than you could before, making that very nice. And also the light attack animation speed has been increased by 10%. So you might be able to notice it's quite a bit faster. I can already tell. It's nice and fast. I like that. Next up we have the Mace and Shield and the Hammer and Shield for both Kubarz and Bardin. And for this one, the third light attack now has an additional 20% crit chance. So that one right there, the uppercut motion, gets extra crit chance. And this next one I feel like I might have had a little something to do with, because the heavy chain for both these shield weapons now begins with a shield bash. Hell yes, I've been complaining about this forever. I've wanted this for so long. I love this. I'm choosing to believe that I had influence on this. Next up is the Mace and Sword here. So this one has a couple things going on with it that are new. The first and second light attacks now have the same damage profile as the one-handed mace. The third and fourth light attacks now have the same damage profile as the one-handed sword, which I think is kind of interesting. And for heavy attacks, both the mace and the sword that he's holding have the same damage profile as the original Falcon heavy attacks, which look something like that. The light attacks, by the way, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Also, heavy attacks, the third light attack and the fourth light attack all get a linesman modifier, which allows for more cleave. Now what we have here is pretty much the mother of all reworks. The halberd has had so many new things happen to it. So for starters, the heavy attack sequence has been reversed. So the stab comes first, and then the little slash comes first. That's your H1 and H2. The combination of light 1, light 2, and heavy is the same. So light 1, light 2, heavy, that's your normal thing right there. these are all the new combinations. A first light attack chaining into a second heavy attack. So a light and now a heavy. You can do that. You can also do the first heavy attack chains into a second light attack and then the third light attack. You can also just do heavy 1, light 2. There's also the combination of, not that, heavy 2 into light 2. And the second heavy attack, that one right there, gets a heavy linesman modifier, so even more cleave than a normal linesman. And then you have the dodge range has been increased from 0.95% up to 1%. Hope you got all that. Here we have the one that I've been seeing everybody freaking out over, the slight nerf to the Executioner Sword. So the first thing they did is they reduced the animation speed by 8.5%, so it is a little slower now. And the third light attack gets a crit chance bonus now. So 1, 2, 3. I can tell you right now that does feel a little slower. Let's take a look at charge attacks. 1, 2, 3. I don't really notice much of a difference with the charge attacks, but the light attacks definitely feel a little slower. But I mean, with Swift Slang, it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. And last but not least, for the Kubarz weapons, it is the Tuskor Spear. All they did for this one is take away a stamina shield. I have 4 stamina built up on my gear, so I get 2 extra shields. But it goes from 4 to 3 as the base stamina. So just one less of these when you're fighting things. They're on to me. They know how I play. Moving on to the next character of Bardin. We have the one-handed axe. This also is for Saltspire as well. So the first thing is the animation pause after the third light attack is decreased from 0.42 seconds to 0.3 seconds. So you can get a look at it here. You notice that little pause is much shorter now. Also, the light attack animation speed is increased by 8%, so they might look a little faster here. I think they do. Your movement speed when light attacking is increased from 75% to 85%, so when you're moving around, you're a little bit faster. That's nice. The heavy attack charge time is decreased from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds. And heavy attacks now share a damage profile with the two-handed hammer light attacks. Pretty sweet. Next up is the Great Axe here. This one got a number of changes as well. The first one being that heavy attacks now get a linesman modifier, which just means more cleave for those guys. If you guys remember, this one, the heavy attacks pretty much just hit like 1 or 2 targets. They barely did anything. So now they're going to cleave through a number of enemies. That's great for this weapon. I really like that. The third light attack now has the same damage profile as the first and second light attacks. The push attack also has a linesman modifier. Nice. The third light attack has a 20% additional crit chance now, and it is increased to 3 stamina shields instead of 2.5. Oh, this might be my new favorite. You know, I might have to take that all back because there is the axe and shield. Just 2 very minor changes to this one. The light attacks are sped up just ever so slightly. I can definitely tell a difference with that. I've used this thing so many times. But the biggest thing for me is the charge time required for heavy attacks has also been decreased slightly. So check this out. Oh my god. Next on our list here we have the dual axes, and just a small change on the finesse multiplier on this one, up from 1.5 to 2. So that just means if you can get a headshot with these, you'll be doing more damage now. Which is kind of hard because you're really short, but worth it for those who take the time to practice. Here we have the War Pick, and another small change to this one. The light attacks get a linesman modifier, so just more cleave on the light attacks for this one. which I am all for because I never really used this one all that much. Moving on to everyone's favorite madam, Carillion, we have the one-handed sword. Now this one, the light attack finesse multiplier has been increased from 1.4 to 2.0. So get those headshots. The second heavy attack now shares a damage profile of the Crowbill Heavy 1 attack. So that little uppercut right there shares a damage profile with the Crowbill. And the third light attack armor damage has been increased by 20%. So that one right there, the little stab out. Here we have an old favorite, the Glaive. It has been unnerfed. It was nerfed previously during the Winds of Magic update, and it has been reversed. The light attacks now have that linesman modifier again, so you'll be able to cleave through anything and everything. It also now has 3 base stamina shields instead of the 2, making it a much better weapon, in my opinion. Now we have one that I actually really like, and now like even more, because the heavy attacks on this weapon now share a damage profile with two-handed hammer light attacks, so check this out. Beefy. Also, you get a 20% bonus crit chance on the push attack. Crits, baby. Here we have the dual daggers, and this one simply, the first 2 light attacks have lost a 10% bonus crit chance. That's it. One of my favorite weapons in the game, the sword and dagger, has lost 10% bonus crit chance from every single one of its attacks. Heavies, lights, all of it. It's gone. I'm sad. I like this weapon. Here we have the dual swords, and this one, the light attack damage against infantry has been increased 25%, and the push attack armor damage has been increased 20%. So, there you go. Here we have a pretty nice upgrade for the Elven Greatsword. The light attack animation speed has been increased approximately 10%. Does definitely seem faster, I like that. And then the light attacks now have a 20% additional crit chance. So, more damage for you. Enjoy. Next up, we have the Elven Spear here. The push attack, the third light attack, and the first heavy attack, that one rather, all now have a linesman modifier allowing for much more cleave. This is another one that has kind of been unnerfed from Winds of Magic. The light stabs, now their base damage has been increased from 0.2 to 0.25. Next up is the Spear and Shield, and this one they've changed the third light attack from that poke to a sweep. Something better for hordes, and it gets a linesman modifier, so 1, 2, 3. Easy. Simple. Moving on to the world of Victor Saltzpyre, it's the Axe and the Falcon. Now this one isn't really that big of a rework deal for me, but they removed the heavy linesman modifier and the bonus 20% crit chance from the push attack, that one. And they've increased the dodge count from 3 to 4, and they've increased the dodge distance from 1.1 to 1.2, so that's a 10% increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you start to kind of slow down a little bit. Cool. Here we have the Falcon. The first thing you will notice about this one, it has 3 stamina shields instead of 2 now. The first and second heavy attacks now share the same damage profile as the elf's one-handed sword's first heavy attack. So that one and that one. The third light attack now has the same damage profile as the first and second heavy attacks. So 1, 2, 3. Same profile as those. Pretty cool. And now we have my favorite, for Zealot at least, the Flail. The first and second light attacks now get a tank modifier for extra cleave, and the heavy attack damage is increased by 30% now. Awesome. Next on the list is the Billhook. Some interesting changes here. The dodge distance has been increased from 1.1 to 1.15, a simple 5% increase in dodge distance. But the funny thing to me is that the dodge count has been decreased from 99 to 3, so you can dodge 1, 2, 3 times, and then you start to slow down. I guess it used to be 99. I didn't even know that. That's kind of funny. Moving on to the final set of melee weapons, that is Sienna's, starting with the Dagger. Pretty simple change here. The dodge count has been increased from 3 to 6 on this one, so you can dodge, not like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you will begin to slow down. Cha-chow. Okay, now we have the Mace for Sienna. And this might just be the most heavily reworked weapon of this entire beta. And there's a lot here, so try to pay attention, I guess. The dodge count, first and foremost, has been increased from 3 to 4. The first heavy attack, that one, now has the same damage profile as the two-handed hammer lights, which is roughly a 23% increase in damage. The heavy one animation, sped up slightly. The range of heavies slightly increased. Sorry, that's a light. Those heavies slightly increased. The second heavy attack, that one, and the third heavy attack, that one, get an increase in 30% damage, and their animation speed is slightly increased. The first light attack damage profile has been changed to the halberd's third light attack damage profile, which is a 30% buff to infantry and a 60% buff to armor damage. But wait, there's more. The range of all light attacks has been slightly increased. The animation speed of all light attacks has been slightly increased. And the movement speed while you're light attacking has been increased from 60% to 80%. Oh my god, that's a lot. And last but not least, for our melee weapons, it is the Flaming Flail for Sienna. This one, they have changed the heavy one explosion. This now deals an AoE direct damage effect to, you know, the small region where you swing. So it will no longer just stagger enemies that are in the explosion radius. It will actually do damage to them. So that's that. On to the ranged weapons. The first of our ranged weapons to get reworked here a little bit is the Beam Staff. Now the Shotgun Blast overcharge has been decreased 33%. That's 3 right there. I'm sure you can tell it's much less than what it used to be. Weapon switching while charging, the time has been decreased from 0.2 seconds to 0 seconds to match the other staffs. So you're charging up, and then you want to switch, instant. Beautiful. And then also weapon switching after shotgunning has been decreased from 0.4 seconds to 0.3 seconds. So you shotgun, you want to switch, it's a little bit faster. Next up we have the Drakefire pistols. The overcharge on this one has been decreased 33%. I do have thermal equalizer on here. The last one did not, just so you guys can see maybe a little bit of a difference there. Also, the dodge range has been increased with these from 85% to 100%. So you now have double the dodge. Beautiful. Next we have the Longbow here. The forced zoom delay has been increased from what used to be 0.4 seconds to 2 seconds. The purpose of this is to allow a full charge without being forced to zoom in. Also, your movement speed has been increased from 0% to 25% while holding full charge, so you can move just a little bit easier when you're shooting. Next up we have Kubarz Handgun. The reload time for this one has been decreased from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. The maximum ammunition has been upped from 12 to 16, and the amount of cleave has been increased 50% to match the crossbow. Kerblau. Just a minor change to the repeater pistol here. The bullet spray now has a linesman modifier on it, and that, I believe, just limits the mass. And here we have the infamous swift bow. This has been getting some buffs. The armor damage has been increased 100% on charged shots. Monster damage has been increased 30% on charged shots. And the cleave for quick and charged shots has been increased 100%. That's double. Here we have the throwing axes. Simply the monster and berserker damage these things do increased by 30%. And here we have Saltspire's volley crossbow. Receives a 50% increase in ammunition, a 1 second decrease in the reload speed, a little bit faster. The cleave is increased to 150% to match the crossbow, and the dodge count is increased from 1 to 3 now. Hallelujah. And then last but not least, Shade's volley crossbow is simply receiving a cleave buff, the same as Saltspire's, up to 150%. Well, that's all the weapons getting reworked, guys, I promise. 38 of them in total, I believe. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because I worked forever on this. This took me days, okay? Days I slaved away for it. Also, if you're interested in joining a Discord group where other people are looking to play and talk and meme about shit, I've got a Discord. Links in the description. Check it out if you want. Don't if you don't want. I don't judge. I don't hate. But that's it, guys. Hope you learned something. Hope you're excited for the new changes coming. Later.